Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is renovating rentals. In today's changing market, several of my investor friends are putting their focus on buy and holds. Due to rising inflation, more and more families are needing rentals. When you are flipping a home to sell at top dollar, you will use different finishes than if you are keeping it as a buy and hold. Here are my 2 tips for renovating rentals. Number 1, invest in higher quality flooring. Some investors go on the cheap side and put carpet in their rentals. The problem with carpet is that it has to be replaced every couple years. We spend a little more and put luxury vinyl plank throughout the entire house, including bathrooms. LVP is waterproof and scratch-proof and will save you money in the long run. Number 2, save on appliances. The less appliances you have in your rentals, the less there is to break. For our long-term rentals, we do not include ice makers, garbage disposals, or washer and dryers. We do have washer-dryer hookups, but the tenant provides their own. For our short-term rentals, we do provide washer and dryers, but we do not install dishwashers. People have fought me over this, but when we stay in short-term rentals, we eat out most of the time. I'm typically just hand-washing a coffee mug and maybe a cereal bowl. So, by spending a little more on flooring and saving on unnecessary appliances, you can set yourself up for a successful rental. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. We have with us Galo Naranjo. Galo experienced his first taste of real estate when he began helping a friend manage a rental property back in 2018. Galo saw a business opportunity in property management and established Assurance Property Management, where he serves as the property manager in charge. His team currently manages 40 rental properties and expects this number to double by the end of 2022. Later, he established Danar Properties, which touches every aspect of real estate, including acquisition, disposition, wholesaling, retail sales, private money lending, renovation project management, and renovations for other investors. He's a busy man, so let's jump in. Welcome to the show, Galo.
Yeah. Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
Welcome. I'm so happy to have you on here. I am knee deep in looking for property management companies right now, so this is perfect timing. And I hear you are a total badass at it, and I can't wait to jump in and hear your badassery. But I want to hear, you have a really cool background. Tell everyone where you were born.
Yeah, so I was born in Ambato, Ecuador, a city just about 2 hours from the capital, Quito. Most people know Quito because, as you know, the half of the world, the center of the world is right there in Quito, right? So you have the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere. I just live basically 2 hours from there. From there, I moved to the United States on or about 1998 to Union City, New Jersey, where I graduated high school, but I decided to join the military. So fast forward a few years, right about when I was about 17 years into the Army, I started thinking that it was about time for me to find a different career. So, and also before then, I had a daughter, Hannah, who was born with Down syndrome. So that basically changed the perspective on how I wanted my life to be. Because, in the military, you are always told where to be, when to be, and you don't really control how long you're going to spend at a place.
Right.
So we decided to just settle here in South Carolina. I decided to basically hang up the gloves, and I started looking into something that I could do. My background is in finance. I have a master's in finance. And I said, well, I'm really good with numbers, but I didn't really want to go to the corporate sector. I applied. I got a multiple interviews with Bank of America. I almost got a job at Bank of America. But when I wore that suit and I went into that tall building in Charlotte, I felt like it's like I was going to be in the military, but I was just going to wear a suit.
Right.
I already had a career. I don't need a career. I need freedom. I don't need people to tell me where to be, the quotas that I need to make. I just want to be free because I wanted to have enough time to spend with my daughter and now my son as well. So that's how basically the journey started. And one day, a friend of mine, we used to ride to Shaw Air Force Base. My buddy lived about a block from me. And as he was getting ready to PCS, a primary change of station, moving to Tennessee, he said, hey, Galo, would you mind looking after my property? And I said, yeah, it doesn't seem like a bad deal. He's like, if you want, I'll pay you for it. I said, well, that's even better. So I noticed that it wasn't really that hard to manage a property. Now, right across the street from my house, there was a rental company. I'm not going to say any names. And I just noticed that the way that they managed, quote unquote, the property was not good. I just noticed people coming in and out and no one really showed them the property. Where I was here trying to sell the property, my friend's property, to those folks that were interested in it. So to me, I said, you know what, there is a lot of need based on what I've seen just with one property right across the street, because it's all really about sales. If you don't have someone there showing the property, selling the property, and also getting to know the person that comes to look at the property, then you're not providing good service. And then from that point, I said, you know what, I'm going to get my license. I got my license. And just by word of mouth, all people from the military, folks that were basically moving out, they say, hey, Galo, would you mind managing my property? I said, sure, I would love to do that. Lo and behold, just by word of mouth, I grew to about 25 properties.
Wow.
And then I decided, you know what, I need to grow the team. I need to do this the right way. And now we're about to like 55 properties now.
Nice. So that was an old intro then that I read. So you're at 55. Yeah. Man, that is amazing. Galo, so impressive. And I first got to back up a little bit and thank you. Mm-hmm. Here you were a foreigner that came to our country and then served for our country. So thank you, Galo, for your service. I appreciate you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And I love all of this that you're saying because, like I said in the beginning, I am currently looking for a project manager. We have a few long-term rentals ourselves. I self-manage. I also have some short-term rentals that I self-manage. I cannot wait to pass those off. I know. So I'm interviewing a couple companies for the short-term rentals as well. But as a property manager, and I love how you gave that example of the no-named company across the street, what are some red flags when I'm looking at property management companies? What should I be looking for?
So I will always look at how many properties they have, because let's be honest, if you have someone that's managing 500 properties, how good of a care are they going to provide to your property? Once again, you cannot afford to have enough employees to show the property, to do the right assessment and provide maintenance to your property. If you have too many, I don't care how many employees you have, your property is just going to become one more.
Just
one
a number.
more of the bunch.
Yep.
Just a number. And one of the things with me is I don't want to grow to manage thousands of properties. I don't. Once I reach a certain number, I'm going to stop, because I know that the moment that I take on more, even if I hire more people, the quality of the service that I provide is not going to be as good. That's just what's going to happen. I've seen it many, many times. And the reason why I started my company is because many investors had a lot of issues with finding the right property management company because they didn't take good care of it. They really didn't. So that will be a red flag, in my opinion. Right now, it's all about really relationships. If you know the owner of the company and then you're providing your portfolio for them to manage, then maybe they're going to take better care for your property. But that, that's debatable.
Well,
The next thing that I will probably,
I was just gonna say, I think that's so important, and you don't want your property that you've put some, sweat equity into. You've maybe renovated it, and you're finding renters for it. You want to make sure that that property is taken care of, and you don't want to be a number. I think that is excellent. When you are interviewing the landlords, what are you looking for?
When I'm interviewing the landlords now, my company, we personally show the properties. We don't sign keys out. We don't, because let's be honest, many people can be really good on paper, have a 650 credit score, no evictions, but they can still be jackasses and they can still be very careless.
True.
Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be a relationship that you're going to have with this tenant and also with the landlord. If we are not going to connect, if there's no connection with the landlord or the tenant, why do I want to be in the long-term relationship, right? It's just not going to work.
Right.
So some of the questions that I will ask a landlord are, well, what is your end state with this property? Are you going to hold it forever? How much money do you want to put into the property now in order to maximize your rents? Something that you just said right now, carpet versus LVP. I will always recommend LVP no matter what kind of property it is. So if I'm going to work with a landlord that I'm sorry is a cheap ass, then maybe that's not the type of person that I want to work with. I don't want to be a slumlord myself.
Right.
I want to provide good quality housing to folks that want to pay top dollar for those rentals. So we need to provide a good product. So then we're going to get tenants that care for the property because they're happy.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that's just kind of one of the things that I will basically ask a landlord. And then with a tenant, why this location? What do you do? What's your family size? A lot of times, even by what they drive and what the car looks like, at times you can tell whether or not they're clean, not clean, how they carry themselves, how they talk, right? It says a lot about a person when they come and see a property. And that's the reason why I personally like to vet and talk to the tenants when they come to view the properties.
I love that. And I am going to make sure that that is on my list to make sure that whoever we hire for our property management we just got a property under contract in Virginia, and whoever we hire, I want to make sure that they do that in person. That is so good. And we did interview one company, and she caught so many things that I would have never thought to look at. And there was a car that looked a little shady, I guess. There was a bunch of stuff in it, and the expiration of the tag. And she called it out right away. She goes, yeah, this car should not be here. We need to get this car out of here. And I love that. And it was just something I wouldn't think of because I'm coming more from the single family home industry or area. And now I'm looking at multifamily commercial properties. So I really liked that and thought, and I was a little scared of the property. I'm going to be honest. It's in a lower socioeconomic area, which I actually feel really good about providing a safe and happy home for people to live. But she was not scared of it at all. She said, oh, we can do this, we could do this, we could do this. So that was definitely like, boom. So I want to transition over to short-term rentals. So you manage short-term rentals too.
Yes.
What do you like better, short-term or long-term?
Oh, I like short-term better.
Nice. Good to know. And what do you like more about the short-term rentals?
The income, first and foremost.
We're not going to lie here.
Yes. So I was a big proponent of long-term rentals in the beginning because as you grow as an investor, you always talk about, generational wealth, and the way to have generational wealth is to buy and hold. However, when I went to the last re-up meeting here in Colombia, we talked about short-term rentals. I started just doing a little bit of analytics of my properties. And lo and behold, I was like, whoa, I need to pivot to short-term rentals. And the moment that I did, I mean, I quadruple my cash flow.
Nice. Who was on that panel, by the way?
You were.
I am happy to hear that I inspired you to go short term. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I digress. So you quadrupled your income. Holy shit. Keep going. Let's hear about it.
So the other thing that I liked was that obviously, you know, the decoration aspect of it, thinking of how I can make this house cozy, cute, functional. And that's the part that, you know, Dana Properties and Assurance Property Management, the two together become very powerful, because my property, my company, one of the companies can renovate it, the other one can manage it. And I have a buddy of mine from Argentina who's an interior decorator. Now, when he put this thing together, and I was a little skeptical in the beginning, you know, you post the property on Airbnb and you're waiting and waiting, okay, one day has passed and, you know, you don't have any reviews, so people are a little hesitant to book with you. But the moment that the first one's in, you're like, yes, sweet. And then you get a good review, it's like even better. I mean, July, there was only 4 days that I was not booked. So my occupancy was through the roof.
Wow.
And now I am tweaking a lot of the, you know, right now with pricing and how much occupancy I want. I'm just running, I'm a data analytics geek. So right now I'm kind of analyzing the numbers to see how I tweak it, how often I want to have dates blocked so I can perform maintenance on the properties and things of that nature. I think it's just better overall. You don't deal with the same tenant, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You know, they come and go. They're only there for a short period of time. And so long as you provide and you have good systems in place to upkeep of the property and you have good communication with the guests, it's pretty cool. It's a no-brainer.
I love that. And yes, I agree 1,000%. Short-term rentals make so much money. And if you have that one shitty guest in there, you're like, oh, they'll be out in 2 days anyway. When you have a long-term tenant, it's like, what can we do about this?
You're stuck.
Yes, exactly. So to me, you sound like you're a one-stop shop. Is that true? Like because I live in Raleigh, you are a couple hours from me. What if I wanted to invest in Columbia or surrounding areas, what you call it Midlands? What if I wanted to buy down there? Is that something where you could take care of that for me?
100%. 100% from beginning to end. End-to-end service is what we provide. End-to-end.
I love it.
And I know I was listening to your podcast, and it's not about the how, but the who.
Yes.
You know, within my properties, you have the who on just everything that any real estate investor would like to accomplish. The Colombia market is hot, is extremely hot. And there are a lot of areas that are good for long-term. There are good areas that are for short-term. There are good areas for flips. And having that local knowledge, and I also have my business partner, Wes Davis, he's also a realtor. So we have access to wholesale deals, retail sales, renovation and project management, property management. So at the end of the day, let's buy a property and then you get your paycheck at the end of the month, your rents. That's what we believe in.
That is fantastic. And there are so many investors who, well, I work with students all over the country. I coach them through Homeschooled by Tariq El Musa. And I have a lot of students in California, and the California market is nuts. And here's a situation where I can say, hey, if you're thinking about, properties that are same quality, but a fraction of the cost of a property in California, why don't you think about throwing your money towards Columbia, towards the Midlands? And here's this guy right here. So if I had someone who is looking to invest in your area, they would call you, you would find them a property. Tell me everything that you do.
Yes. So either if you already have a property that you're looking into, I can look at the property. I can give you a renovation estimate for the property. I can even bid the renovation to other contractors that I know. We can do the renovation ourselves, and I can provide more than anything. I can be your eyes and ears, boots on the ground. You're a trustworthy person that can look. And remember, I'm not looking at this as the contractor or as the property manager. I'm looking at this as an investor because first and foremost, I'm an investor. And let me caveat to this because I think it's a good segue with what you talked about with property management. It is, I think, a good quality for a property manager that they have invested or that have somewhat of an idea of what investors look like, that they understand the language, that they understand ARV, that they understand cash flow, that they understand cash and cash returns or return on investment. Because in order for a property manager to serve you well, they need to understand what your end goal is so I can help you achieve that goal.
I love that.
By doing so, if I'm here, boots on the ground, I can find you a property. I'm looking at it through the lens of an investor. But yet, I also have knowledge on the construction sector and also knowledge on the property management sector. So before we even start doing a renovation, I can tell you, look, I think this property will be a great short-term rental. So I think we need to do better on the flooring. I think we need to do better on the appliances because it has to look good. Right. Now, if it's a long-term rental, then I'll say, no, you know what? Maybe we need to do this type of renovation because you're not going to get the best bang for your buck by doing, I don't know, hardwood floors. So I will make those recommendations based on my knowledge of the entire process and the area and the sector and the asset class that you wanna invest.
That is amazing. And will you be expanding your region? Because I'd love to get you up here in North Carolina to do the same
Jen,
thing.
I would love to. I guess I have an issue. In the military, I was raised understanding that if you control, like if you have positive control of the different functions in a business, you grow faster. So I think right now my reach is probably as far as an hour from here because you know what? It all comes down to trust.
Right.
It all comes down to trust. If I cannot trust the contractor in Raleigh, now my name is tied to what we need to accomplish.
Right.
If that contractor didn't do the job, then I'm already like, oops,
yeah, I'm
sorry, because I'm responsible for what happens and doesn't happen with the property. But lo and behold, I hope that we get to grow by adding more systems in place, and that lo and behold that we can expand our services to other areas.
Galo, thank you so much for sharing this. And before we move on to the next part here, give me a horror story, like any crazy shit you've come across in some of your property management situations where you're like, oh my gosh, no one will believe this. Anything crazy?
You're probably not going to trust me. And here's the thing that I told myself when I started my company. I am not going to manage properties that I wouldn't place my son or daughter to live in.
Okay.
So I would not be the property manager for you if you're going to have, I would never strive to become a slumlord.
Okay.
Right. So because of that, and because of the tenants that I place in the units, I have never had a horror story, thankfully. And in the last 3 years that I've done it, not once have I had a tenant destroy a property or leave crazy stuff behind. And that's because of what we do to vet our tenants. I know that I'm kind of, you're like, this guy is boring. But when it comes to property management, boring, no high cost are the way to go. So I'm glad that I've never had to go through that.
Galo, so well said. Thank you for being completely specific on that, because that is some of the issues. You have these nilly-willy property management companies that don't give a shit who they put in there. And then that's where you hear of these crazy horror stories, which scare other people out of buying multifamily, buying these rentals, etc. So thank you for sharing that. And before we move on to the second half, will you share a badassery bestowment? I was talking about flooring and appliances. By the way, do you agree with my assessment on not putting in the ice makers or the garbage disposals? Do you agree with that?
100%.
Good.
Hallelujah to those two comments. I wholeheartedly believe And I endorse what you said,
Good.
100%.
All right. So do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with our listeners? A little short piece of advice?
Yes, I would like to share that, real estate in the acquisitions world, right, is all about finding solutions for problems. I think a lot of the times we get so worried about how we're going to make the next dollar that we forget, really, at least for me and for my business partners, like, how do we solve problems? And I say this because I do have a kind of cool story about the first property that we wholesaled. And it's a good segue to that. I had a wholesaler that found me on Facebook. I try to post a lot of videos on Facebook. And he said, hey, I'm having a really hard time locking out this deal. I think the numbers are great, but this guy does not want to sign. And I said, okay, well, let's see if I can go and meet the guy. And, the guy lived in a deplorable condition. I mean, no power, no water, roaches everywhere. And I simply asked, I said, hey, sir, if you could have it your way, what would you want today that will make your life better? Simple question. And he said, you know what? I would like a warm place to stay and a hot plate of food. And I said, okay, well, if I were to give you a hotel stay right down the road and I will treat you to dinner, would you consider, going through some numbers so we can purchase your property? He said 100%.
Wow.
Just the fact that we solved an immediate need, the guy was more willing, because let's be honest, they understand that selling a property can take 30, 45 days. If you're hungry and you're cold, you cannot wait 30 to 45 days.
Right.
So it cost us $120. And we bought a cash flowing property that is doing great. But we solved an immediate problem. And I think we need to understand the money comes, but first we need to solve problems so that the next will follow.
That was a perfect badassery bestowment. And I appreciate you sharing that. And clearly, Galo, you are a badass. So the second part of the podcast is what makes you a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. The first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Well, I know a lot of people that will be hoping, something about business and everything else. But for me, it's defensive estimating. Defensive estimating is all about the construction sector and how do you defensively estimate repairs. Summary, okay? You have to pay yourself first.
Oh, yes.
100%. I didn't believe in that. I was all worried about how can I get enough jobs so my guys can stay busy, and I forgot about me. So now I first pay myself first. I factor all overhead and everything else. And then I will tell you how much I want to make for this or that job. Yes, the amount of work that we've been doing is less, but we're making more because of it.
Excellent. And that is defensive estimating. Do you know who wrote that book?
Yeah, William Asdall.
Okay. I will have to check that out. I've never heard of that one. Very, very good. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Great. So when I was starting in my real estate journey, I listened to Bigger Pockets and this, that, the other. And everything I heard in terms of success was, well, how many properties do you use? How many doors? How many doors? So if you have 200 doors, you're like, oh my goodness, like much respect to you. But to me, I had Dr. Zaid, who introduced me to the multifamily sector. This gentleman, he has a very specific niche and area of properties and is in a higher end areas. So he said, Galo, look, you can own 200 properties that cash flow X, or you can simply own 2 properties that cash flow you the same amount. Which one would you rather own? And I said, oh, I never really thought about it. So now my focus totally changed into how much passive income I want a property to produce and how much that asset can go up in value over time based on the location of where it's at. So now my focus have totally shifted to how much passive income I want to make, and how much on or about average appreciation of the property versus how many doors I have. I no longer track success based on number of doors.
Wow. Well, if you find any multifamily and are looking for an investor to help you with that, you let me know. I have a goal of getting 101 doors by the end of the year, so I am all open to suggestions, especially if you're going to manage it for me down there in Colombia.
You got it.
All right. The D in badass is drive, and I think I know the answer to this one, but what drives you to be successful?
100% my daughter. Hannah is my motivation, my everything. Hannah has Down syndrome. So I know that I not only have to worry about, my financial freedom in the future, but I have to worry about her financial freedom. I always tell myself that I will never see my daughter bagging groceries in a grocery store, because normally children or adults with special needs, that's what they do.
Right.
I'm going to put myself and my daughter in a position where she does what she wants to do, and she's going to be working her own business. So that's what drives me every day.
Well, Hannah is a lucky girl to have such an inspirational father. Thank you for that. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on? I just shared what my goal was. So what is your biggest goal you have going on?
Huge goal is to enter into the multifamily space.
Yes.
And we're almost there. I'm actually partnering. Real estate is all about collaboration. So I'm partnering with my friend Zay Kenan here, and he just purchased a multifamily that we're going to turn into a student rental here near 5 Points. Beautiful property. We're going to do some additions. It's all about what you put into it. So he bought the property already. We're going to put the money for the renovations, and obviously Assurance Property Management is going to manage the property. So we're going to put some sweat equity, and that's how we're going to enter the multifamily space.
Good for you. College housing is so smart, because we were looking at one up in Virginia recently, and the students that live there from August to June, but they have to pay the entire year. So you have 2.5 months with no wear and tear on the apartments. I think that is a fantastic idea. Plus, it gives you time to renovate if need be. All right.
Correct.
The first S in badass is systems. Mr. Military, what are systems you have in place to help you achieve success?
Right. So in the military, is all about procedures. We call them is what's called SOPs, the standard operating procedures. I mean, all real estate, all transactions, we normally do the same thing over and over and over again. So we got to systematize everything. So we love checklists. We need to have a checklist for everything. A checklist for renovation, a checklist for onboarding tenants, a checklist for this, a checklist for that. So no matter who comes, no matter who's new to the property or who's got long term in the property, we're going to do things the same way. We can tweak procedures a little bit to make them better, but checklists are a must.
I love me a checklist. I love to create them. I love to keep them. I love everything about them. So I'm so glad you said that. All right, to wrap this up, the final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Galo?
To me, is generational financial freedom. Not, once again, it all goes tied to my daughter, because I have to make sure that she has the financial freedom. I'm okay right now. I can stop working now and we'll be fine. But it's about achieving generational freedom for her. So to me, success is making sure that my kids and my kids' kids have that freedom to say, man, Grandpa Galo did all of this, and look at everything that he's built. And now we can reap the benefits. And now we still have Assurance Property Management going. Dana Properties is growing. Maybe we're already in Raleigh and we're expanding, and they're working for themselves. So that's love it. Success to me.
Well, Galo, you are such an inspiration, and I am sure people are chomping on the bit to get in touch with you, because, like I said, there's people all over the country who are looking for those boots on the ground somewhere, who are going to take a property from start to finish. So how do the listeners find you?
Well, multiple ways that you can find me. You can find me on Facebook. You can search Dana Properties. Also, you can find me on Facebook through myself, Galo.Naranjo.54. I don't know why my dad has the same name as me. My brother has the same name as me. So when you put Galo Naranjo, you're probably going to have 4 that come up. So make sure that you have Galo.Naranjo.54, and you'll see this good-looking, bald-headed guy with glasses. That's me.
Well, you have been a pleasure to have on the show. I'd love to have you back on sometime. And this was your first podcast. So congratulations. I just popped your podcast cherry. So you were perfect. Thank you. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.